Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, a couple in their 30s struggled with infertility but eventually had 2 children. Tragically, their third child was stillborn, causing immense grief. However, the wife sought emotional solace in an inappropriate relationship with a coworker. The husband discovered her texts and confronted her, leading to therapy that didn't resolve the issue. He resorted to publicly exposing her actions at her workplace, leading to criticism. Despite her pleas for forgiveness, he decided to divorce her, feeling betrayed by her actions during their shared grief. He moved with their children to a farm, seeking a fresh start while questioning the justifications for her actions. Now let's get into today's second story. My wife, 34, had issues getting pregnant. For a handful of years after we were blessed to have our first 2 children, our third child was stillborn. It was very traumatic because we didn't expect it. After 2 successful pregnancies, we thought everything would be okay. Instead, we arrived at the hospital only to find out the devastating truth. We had to gently explain what happened to our older children, and it wasn't easy. We closed the door to the nursery and never opened it again. Just a few months later, my wife was back to work and she started escaping to the bathroom during family time. Before walking into the kitchen, I looked over my wife's shoulder as she unlocked her phone to discover her passcode. Then I just kept watching as she replied to a message from AP. As we sat on the couch having a movie night with our children, I couldn't react because the kids were there that night. I checked her phone and found more extremely inappropriate texts to her coworker. They talked about work, but mostly it was about my wife, her grief, and what she needed to feel better. I woke her up in the middle of the night to confront her. She was extremely remorseful and shamed. She said now that I had caught her, reality was sinking in, so she promised to shut it down and cut him off completely. This was followed by many hard talks, but I thought we were moving forward. She told me they never slept with each other, despite all her talk about wanting to take him. I doubted her truthfulness, but I didn't want to believe my marriage was over. We went to therapy, but it ultimately didn't help because all my wife's friends and family justified her behavior by saying they understood she just needed an escape after suffering such a huge loss. Even the therapist seemed like her behavior was justified because of her grief. Why did she deserve an escape and forgiveness when no one bothered to ask how I was handling the loss? I went through hell handling my own grief while giving her a shoulder to cry on, only to find out she was escaping behind my back. She went so far as to tell AP she wanted him in our bed while she was home alone. When I started to consider cheating on her as revenge or to make us even, I realized there was no corrective action I could take to bring back the wife I thought I had. Since she had the approval of her friends, family, and her therapist, I decided to see how her coworkers would feel about her escaping habit. I got permission to hang up my flyer on the bulletin board by vaguely describing it as a way to spread awareness of despicability. The boss was busy at the time, so she let me hang it up. All of my wife's coworkers saw the worst text she received besides a text box I wrote describing our family and what we were all doing together. While she had the nerve to send these. When she went into work for her next shift, she received so much criticism and slander that she returned home crying. That's when I gave her a copy of the flyer. There wasn't much she could say in her defense because I knew everything. She wanted me to forgive her and stay married, and that just couldn't happen. She wasn't the woman I married. She gave me up for an escape with another man. I don't see how us losing a child is any excuse for her to cheat on me. I'm sure that if I was the one doing this, I would have been shunned. It was a sweet relief to me that she quit her job. She was suffering from the reality she didn't want to face. And now I followed through with the divorce. A woman worthy of a wife's title would never betray the husband she had children with just because they lost a child. They would support each other in the worst of times so that moving forward became possible. They would act as pillars so their children's world could remain stable. So after the divorce, I moved myself and the children onto my cousin's farm. I heard animals can be therapeutic, and that's what I wanted us to be surrounded by. Certainly not. A constant reminder of the life we used to live with their mother. She was able to stay in the house since I let her have it in the divorce. I still think she wishes for me to see it her way, but I don't understand how she can justify it. Today's second story. In this story, with a newborn in tow, the husband urged his wife to find employment after her home-based business drained resources. She secured a night shift job at a gas station, eliminating childcare expenses. However, her paychecks were mysteriously delayed for weeks. Suspicions grew, leading the husband to discover his wife's affair with a familiar pastor. With proof in hand, he initiated a successful divorce, gaining primary custody of their child. Meanwhile, the pastor's wife also divorced him and thanked the husband for his revelation. Now let's get into the story. My wife 23, and I, 26 were struggling to pay the bills for a while. By the time I asked her to get a job, we had a newborn baby. So she'd been trying to work from home by starting her own business. But it was costing us more money than it was earning. It was really disappointing and neither of us were feeling very hopeful at this time in our life. She agreed to get a part-time job and told me she started applying to anything around the area. Not even 3 days went by before she told me she was hired at a gas station down the street and she'd be working at night. So we didn't have to pay anyone to watch our newborn. It seemed like it was going to work out great. 2 weeks went by without a paycheck from her job and I was missing my wife in bed. It was a hard adjustment, although my wife seemed really happy. She said she enjoyed her job and it felt good to be making money for us. At least she was happy, I thought. Another week went by and she still didn't have a paycheck. When I asked her what was taking so long, she said she accidentally put in the wrong account number on her direct deposit form. It was frustrating, but things happen, I thought. She continued working for another 2 weeks without a paycheck. I'd finally had enough. What would delay her paycheck for so long? Then I got the unsettling thought that maybe my wife wasn't going to work at all. She was very happy. Didn't seem at all concerned about the money she was missing, and she would only ever tell me not to worry about it. So one night, I decided to have my friend follow her to work. I had to stay with the baby and she wouldn't be looking for my friend's car. He called me after 35 minutes with really bad news. My wife had driven way past the gas station into some random house. She went inside and he hasn't heard or seen anything since. My heart nearly stopped when I heard this. I told him to come get me. We took the baby to my mom's house on the way to this random house my wife was visiting. I tried to open the front door, even though my friend thought I was crazy. It was locked anyway. So I sat in the car with my friend, watching the house and wondering what to do. Finally, 1 hour before her shift would end, the porch light came on and she came out of the house with a man. He kissed her passionately on the lips before she left. Sweat started pouring out of me, and I felt like I was falling. My friend drew over at a distance from her until she got to a diner. She spent my money to pay for her breakfast, so she didn't have a part-time job. She was going to this guy's house and spending the night every night. My friend didn't really know what to say, but it was good to just have someone there with me. I asked him what I should do, and he suggested I hire a pie. I couldn't afford that, but he did give me an idea. I asked him if he could sit outside the house at least one more time to get some pictures. Any pictures would help. He agreed. I also bought and installed a GPS tracker on my wife's car. It was so hard for me to resist following her or confronting her with what I found out. I waited 4 days to give my friend and the GPS tracker time to get some evidence. While I waited, I tried to figure out where I knew this man from. He looked so familiar, and it wasn't until I stopped thinking about it that his identity dawned on me. He was the pastor of a church I visited about 3 times years ago. He was married when I visited the church, but I wasn't sure if that was still the case. I sent him a friend request on Facebook, and he accepted it, probably assuming I was a churchgoer. I told my friend I knew who the guy was, and he said I would be either really pleased or upset with the pictures he got. My friend went above and beyond to help me. He snuck up to the bedroom window of the house, using something to stand on to take pictures. Through the window, there was just enough light to tell that it was my wife having intimate with the pastor. He was right. I didn't know if I was pleased or upset. I was upset, but pleased I could prove she was cheating on me. It was time to turn my wife's world upside down. After she left for work one night, I took all my stuff and her son to my mom's house. I left divorce papers on the table, and right when my wife should have been arriving home, I posted the pictures my friend took and the GPS tracker information on Facebook. I tagged her, her friends and family, and the pastor himself. There was a digital explosion. All of the pastor's Facebook friends, including his wife, reacted to my post. All of my wife's friends and family commented, asking me what I was going to do, how she could do this, and offering me consolation. Some of them flat out insulted my wife, telling her she was a terrible person and didn't deserve to see her infant baby anymore. That was harsher than even I could be. My wife called me, dismayed and overwhelmed. She wasn't sure what to ask about first, but she started with asking me to take my post off Facebook. I refused. She asked me how I expected her to survive after divorce, and that was the stupidest question she could have asked. I said, "How about you get a job like you told me you were going to do, instead of sleeping with a married pastor behind my back?" She gasped, claiming she didn't know he was married. The divorce went super well for me. I won primary custody of our son, and my wife was ordered to pay me child support and alimony. She was able to keep the house because it was in her name, but she failed to make the mortgage payments. She had no choice but to move in with her parents who lived out of state. They didn't want her to move in, but eventually said she could stay in the basement. It's good for her that her car was paid off by me at this point, because I'm sure that it would have been repoed if it wasn't. She called me often, crying. She missed our son and me. She admitted she'd been a lazy and inconsiderate wife. She swore she would never be the same person again, but it didn't matter to me anymore. The pastor's wife was on a missionary trip while her husband had close with my wife in their house. She filed for divorce as well, and actually thanked me for investigating and revealing what was going on. She asked me if I wanted to go out to dinner some night, and I agreed. It didn't take me long to be able to afford a new house for my son and I. My mom watches him each day, and she's never been happier. Things can work out, and time keeps moving, even if you don't. I couldn't stop moving because my son depends on me. I've also started speaking positively to myself, choosing to focus on the goodness in life rather than the negativity. Today's third story. In this story, OP was ready to propose to his girlfriend of 2 years, despite her job instability. They moved in together, and she cycled through multiple jobs quickly. He discovered a mysterious backup phone in her car, which she later explained as a precaution against phone breakage. Suspicious, he waited for another opportunity to investigate. When he finally found the phone, it was missing, suggesting she hid it. He overheard a conversation with her sister, revealing she had multiple affairs while dating him, seeking excitement but staying with him for a place to live. Furious, he confronted her, kicked her out, and got tested for STDs. Now let's get into the story. We'd been dating for 2 years and I, 27, was about to propose even though she, 26, seemed to have trouble keeping a job. I always said it was due to her free-spirited way of living. We always had good times together and made each other laugh. I felt like we belonged together, and she didn't seem to think any different. We moved in together after 1 year of dating, and she already had 8 different jobs. I forget where some of them were. They changed pretty fast, but at least she always got a new one. Well, that wasn't the only new thing she kept getting. My girlfriend's car always had a bunch of trash in it, usually empty, zero-sugar drink bottles. So one morning before she went to work, I cleaned it out for her. When I opened her glove box, there was a dead phone along with a charger. I brought it in and sat it on the table while I made breakfast. When she came downstairs and saw the phone, she completely froze and didn't say a word to me. I said I found it while I was cleaning her car and just wanted to know if we could give it to my nephew to play games on. Her voice was barely a whisper, but she cleared her throat and said she likes to keep a backup phone in case hers breaks because she's known for breaking phones. I accepted this, and even though I noticed her odd behavior, I didn't bring it up with her. As we ate, I decided I'd wait for another chance to find the phone and plug it in to search for anything fishy. She already had a working phone, so I genuinely believed this was a backup and wouldn't have anything interesting on it. Certainly nothing current. The next chance I got, I went into the glove box. The phone was gone. That was weird. She moved it so I wouldn't find it again. Her sister came over that night to hang out, and they stayed up late, so I pretended to go upstairs to sleep. I went to the top of the stairs, waiting to hear what they talked about. I felt silly, but at the same time, I knew she was going to say something about what was going on. I could feel a change in the air. It was 20 minutes before my wife said she needed to ask her something. I listened closely as she asked her sister if it was bad to have many boyfriends in a short span of time. SIS was confused and reminded her she'd been dating me for almost 2 years now, so she didn't need to be worried about this. My girlfriend hesitated but explained that for each job she's had while dating me, she's had an AP. I gasped but covered my mouth to hold in my scream. Her sister was shocked too. She asked how many that was and my girlfriend didn't even know. I felt like dying there by the steps, wondering what to do next. She went on to say that she couldn't help it. She just got so excited at the thought of sleeping with someone that wasn't expecting it. And each time after she slept with them a few times, she'd get bored and want to leave, but didn't feel like she could break up with them while keeping the job. Her sister asked why she stayed with me so long if this was what she liked doing. She said she needed a place to live because she was too old to live with her parents. I was furious. I didn't want to wait another minute to confront her. I then came in and told her to get out of my house immediately. She and her sister were scared. My girlfriend begged me to let her explain or give her a chance to start over and grow up. I told her I refused to be taken advantage of for even another second. Just before they left, I told her to get checked for STDs because she was disgusting. I got checked as well and I'm so grateful. I used protection the whole time with her. We were not ready to have kids, that much was certain. Just 3 months after I left her, she was living with another unfortunate soul. When she found out she had an STD, she called to tell me and I let her have it a little bit more. But that wasn't all the karma she had coming for her. She got pregnant with someone from her job at Subway. A sad, pathetic woman. I can't believe it took me so long to find out what she was doing. But I thank the stars I found out before proposing. I've started dating again. But I'm much more observant now. And I don't hide what I've been through, because that could be why I might come off as jealous or overprotective.